Yeah, okay. So, Namaste, Vivekji. You're muted, but that's fine. Um, we were just about to begin. So, thank you for coming. And there's been an electricity outage in my area because of a thunder shower. So, I might be preserving bandwidth um, by doing away with the video. So, maybe hopefully that would save a bit of battery as well. But that's all right. So thank you again for coming, making the time to log into this space, hopefully, which would be of use to all of us. It was a solar eclipse this morning, and Lama Zopa used to say that the merits accumulated on solar eclipses multiplies 100 million times. So, yeah, so we would first look at our posture and then look at our motivation. For the posture, sit in an upright, cross-legged position if you can. Otherwise, just see that your legs, if they can be, they are firmly planted on the ground. The spine needs to be straight and in a relaxed position. Eyes slightly open if you're comfortable with that, or entirely closed if you can't keep it slightly open. The idea of slightly opening the eyes, keeping the eyes open, is that the light helps you in being there. Tilt the head slightly forwards so that the nape of the neck is elongated. The hands can either be on knees or you can fold them one palm on top of the other, whichever feels more natural to you. This open posture is meant to be open to the world, to show that you are confident of your relationship with it. The idea of calm abiding is to dwell in the present moment, not rush into the future or the past. Let go of everything that might have been on our minds before we entered this particular space. Now focus on the breath. The small gratifications of the everyday can be very habit forming and confusing. So let go with each exhalation. Focus inward. Gently bring your attention to the breath. Again, exhale and let go. Think about this precious human birth. There was just a news a few days ago that a bus had very near to my place in the foothills of the Garhwal Himalayas, a bus going for a wedding had crashed, gone into, had fallen into a gorge, and there weren't any survivors. They were very young people, about 18 of them, and included the groom, and they were going for the wedding. None of them survived. So think about this precious human birth, that the time of death is most uncertain, but death is certain. So we need to maximize this precious life. sensations and thoughts would naturally arise at times. Try holding them very lightly and letting go of them. Think of them as passing clouds in a clear blue sky. Relax while being attentive and awake. Don't get caught up in the thought process. Stay with the breath and return to it if you find yourself in some other space. Just gently return. So thank you again. Also to those who have just joined, welcome. So today we have to see the fourth Brahma Vihar of Upekha in Pali, Upeksha in Sanskrit, and more commonly known in English as equanimity. So in order to camouflage my ignorance, I would be mostly reading from the work of the masters. Upeksha, the Sanskrit word, is comprised of two parts, upa and aksha, which basically means up is above and aksh is to see. So basically to see from above, which can be looked at as a process where you see things from above, from beyond your prejudices. The Brahma Viharas, the four of them, of Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeksha, loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. They are first seen in one of the Anuttaras, Nikayas, and the particular sutra is where it is first mentioned is here in it's called the Trivijja Sut in Pali, basically meaning three vidyas. Sorry, there's some kind of a feedback problem happening. I've just stopped my video because of that. So this is from the book called In the Buddha's Words, an anthology of discourses from the Pali Canon. And the Buddha is saying, here, monks, some person dwells pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise, the second quarter, the third, and the fourth. Thus, above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to himself, he dwells pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with equanimity, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. He relishes it, takes a liking to it, and is thrilled by it. If he is firm in it, resolves upon it, often dwells in it, and has not lost it when he dies, he is reborn in companionship with the devas of great fruit. So the Shakyamuni is talking about the four kinds of persons found existing in the world. And he is telling this to a couple of Brahmins who had come to him asking him about certain things, about Brahma Viharas, basically, which can be translated as divine abodes. So these were the 4 divine abodes. And the Buddha is saying that 1/4, as in, so there are 4 divine abodes. And this 1/4 of it is equanimity. One of the reasons I think it's called a divine abode is because this particular mind state is where all the divine beings can be found, where they have made their viharas, their abodes. And they're also known as the 4 immeasurables because it keeps on increasing. You cannot measure it. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in his book, An Open Heart, Practicing Compassion in Everyday Life, has a chapter called Cultivating Equanimity. That is the 9th chapter. In this, he says, genuine compassion must be unconditional. We must cultivate equanimity in order to transcend any feelings of discrimination and partiality. One way to cultivate equanimity is to contemplate the uncertainty of friendship. First, we must consider that there is no assurance that our close friend today will remain a friend forever. Similarly, we can imagine that our dislike for someone will not necessarily continue indefinitely. Such reflections diffuse our strong feelings of partiality, undermining our sense of the immutability of our attachments. It is very, very simple for us to actually think of people within 3 categories. One, I think, are the people who are friends and our loved ones who are close to us. The others are the ones which are kind of opposite to that. People we don't like, dislike to varying degrees. And the third are strangers, people we are either unaware of or are very neutral towards. Equanimity, basically, we need to look at it as a striving to look at others as equals. Having the capacity of thinking of others in the same way as we think of the non-others, of us, of my own self. In the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, a guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, generally we have 2 different translations which are quite prevalent. One is the Padmakar translation and the other one is the Bachelor translation. So I'm going to read from the Bachelor translation in chapter 8 on meditation. Verses 90 to 98 are the ones which look at equanimity, and I would only read verse 90. But I'll read it from both the translations and see how it is kind of natural. It has become natural for us. We are conditioned into thinking of people into these categories. Verse 90, chapter 8. First of all, I should make an effort to meditate upon the equality between self and others. I should protect all beings as I do myself, because we are all equal in wanting pleasure and not wanting pain. The Padmakar translation of the same verse 90 states, strive at first to meditate upon the sameness of yourself and others. In joy and sorrow, all are equal. Thus be guardian of all, as of yourself. Therefore, this talks about meditating on the equality of self and other. It also talks about meditating on the exchange of self and other, but I think that is that can be done only after we have been able to understand the equality of self and other. To further elaborate on equanimity, I'm quoting from Thich Nhat Hanh's journal. He says, the fourth element of true love is upeksha, which means equanimity, non-attachment, non-discrimination, even-mindedness, or letting go. Upe means over, and aksha means to look. You climb the mountain to be able to look over the whole situation, not bound by one side or the other. If your love has attachment, discrimination, prejudice, or clinging in it, it is not true love. People who do not understand Buddhism sometimes think upeksha means indifference. But true equanimity is neither cold nor indifferent. If you have more than one child, they are all your children. Upeksha does not mean that you don't love. You love in a way that all your children receive your love, without discrimination. Upeksha has the mark called samatagyan, the wisdom of equality, the ability to see everyone as equal, not discriminating between ourselves and others. In a conflict, even though we are deeply concerned, we remain impartial, able to love and to understand both sides. We shed all discrimination and prejudice and remove all boundaries between ourselves and others. As long as we see ourselves as the one who loves and the other as the one who is loved, as long as we value ourselves more than others or see others as different from us, we do not have true equanimity. We have to put ourselves, quote, into the other person's skin, unquote, and become one with him if we want to understand and truly love him. When that happens, there is no self and no other. Without upeksha, your love may become possessive. A summer breeze can be very refreshing, but if we try to put it in a tin can, so we can have it entirely for ourselves, the breeze will die. Our beloved is the same. He is like a cloud, a breeze, a flower. If you imprison him in a tin can, he will die. Yet many people do just that. They rob their loved one of his liberty until he can no longer be himself. They live to satisfy themselves and use their loved one to help them fulfill that. That is not loving, it is destroying. You say you love him, but if you do not understand his aspirations, his needs, his difficulties, he is in a prison called love. True love allows you to preserve your freedom and the freedom of your beloved. That is upeksha. I would put in a caveat here that we need to be mindful that readings are not meant solely for intellectual stimulation and for a feel-good phenomena. We need to constantly familiarize ourselves with the readings because the idea is to transform the readings into our being, into action. Because at times it happens with me, I become so intellectually happy with what I'm reading that it stops being incorporated into my being. It stops being more than what it is supposed to be, as in what actually it is supposed to be. So we need to be a bit cautious when we are reading things. We need to be vigilant and constantly familiarize ourselves. He was talking about true love. Now I would be going through a few reflection exercises, so to say. I'll begin with one poem from Chogyam Trungpa. It's from his poetry collection. It's called First Thought, Best Thought, 108 poems. And because Thay was talking about love, this poem is a reflection of the same. The name of the poem is Love's Fool. Love. What is love? What is love? Love is a fading memory. Love is piercingly present. Love is full of charm. Love is hideously in the way. Explosion of love makes you feel ecstatic. Explosion of love makes you feel suicidal. Love brings goodliness and godliness. Love brings celestial vision. Love creates the unity of heaven and earth. Love tears apart heaven and earth. Is love sympathy? Is love gentleness? Is love possessiveness? Is love sexuality? Is love friendship? Who knows? Maybe the rock knows. Sitting diligently on earth, not flinching from cold snowstorms or baking heat. Oh rock, how much I love you. You are the only lovable one. Would you let me grow a little flower of love on you? If you don't mind, maybe I could grow a pine tree on you. If you are so generous, Maybe I could build a house on you. If you're fantastically generous, maybe I could eat you up or move you to my landscape garden. It is nice to be friends with a rock. So we see that we start clinging to anything and everything, to our ideas. If we like a rock, we start clinging to the rock. We are unable to see things in a non-biased, unprejudiced manner. Let's just reflect on something. I had mentioned it to a couple of people um, about the idea of neutrality. Just reflect on whether we as people, whether we are neutral, whether people are neutral. Today happens to be the birth anniversary of a 19th, an early 20th century politician called Adolf Hitler. He was born in the year 1889, the same year when our first prime minister was born, Jawaharlal Nehru. Both of them were politicians. There was a time in the 1930s when Adolf Hitler was very, very much loved as well. Just reflect on our capacity of being neutral, of immediately categorizing people into friends and enemies if we know of them or if we have met them. Think about what equanimity means. I'm reading from His Holiness's An Open Heart, page 112, the chapter Cultivating Equanimity. So while you are reflecting on whether we as people are neutral, His Holiness says, as we work at developing equanimity, we can consider that the very notions of enemy and friend are changeable and dependent upon many factors. No one is born our friend or enemy, and there isn't even a guarantee that relatives will remain friends. Friend and enemy are defined in terms of people's toward us and their treatment of us. Those whom we believe to have affection for us, to love and care for us, we generally regard as friends and loved ones. Those whom we believe to have ill will and harmful intentions toward us are our enemies. We therefore view people as friends or enemies based on our perception of the thoughts and emotions they harbor toward us. So, nobody is essentially our friend or essentially our enemy. We often confuse the actions of a person with the actual person. This habit leads us to conclude that because of a particular action or statement, a person is our enemy, yet people are neutral. They are neither friend nor enemy, Buddhist nor Christian, Chinese nor Tibetan. So we can also think about how our relationships change with the same person. People whom we love the most might have been strangers once and might become strangers again. So I'll be doing one more reflection. I'll read out a sentence and you take your time and reflect on that. In the general context of equanimity, just as I myself have the desire to be happy and overcome suffering, so do all others. And just as I have the natural right to fulfill this aspiration, so do all others. I'm repeating this again. Just as I myself have the desire to be happy and overcome suffering, so do all others. And just as I have the natural right to fulfill this aspiration, so do all others. So it's about 7:21. We have another 10 minutes or so. Um, as I mentioned, I don't think I'm qualified to actually give answers to questions, but we can have some discussion. I think Kabirji is also now online, but um, I wouldn't put the questions to him right now. So if there's anything we can discuss on equanimity, we can have 5 minutes for that and then a dedication. All right. So if there isn't anything, maybe 7:22, we can wrap up 5 minutes early if that's fine. And let me do the dedication then. As I mentioned at the beginning, today was a solar eclipse. And Lama Zopa used to say that the merits accrued multiplies 100 million times on the day of a solar eclipse. So keeping that in mind, Whatever merits that have been accumulated, may they be beneficial for all mother sentient beings, and for the long life of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and for the swift rebirth of our kind Guru, Kebji Lama Zopa Rinpoche. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sujit.
Thank you. Thank you so much.